Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story. In today's story, we dive into the heart of the universe's most unexpected conflict. What happens when a peaceful humanitarian mission is met with hostility from an unknown alien species? A hospital ship, meant to save lives, is torn apart in a violent ambush, leaving only one survivor to tell the tale. Humanity's mercy is mistaken for weakness, and now, Earth's leaders must make a choice. Do they remain the peaceful healers the galaxy knows them to be, or do they unleash the full might of their hidden war fleet to show the true strength of humanity? This is a tale of revenge and restraint, of justice and compassion. It's the story of how Earth learns that kindness is not a weakness, but a force to be reckoned with. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the UNHS Nightingale, a majestic hospital ship gliding silently toward its destination, Proxima Centauri. Its hull gleamed under the dim light of distant stars, adorned with the universal Red Cross symbol, a beacon of mercy in the cold expanse of the cosmos. Despite the deep void surrounding it, the Nightingale seemed to carry with it the weight of hope, the promise of healing amidst a galaxy teetering on the edge of conflict. Inside the sleek, metallic halls of the Nightingale, the atmosphere was anything but ordinary. The hum of advanced engines reverberated through the corridors, vibrating softly against the pristine white walls. The hospital ship was Earth's most advanced vessel, its interior a complex network of medical bays, quiet crew quarters, and high-tech laboratories. Every surface was designed for efficiency, comfort, and speed. In a world where space was vast and inhospitable, the Nightingale stood as a testament to humanity's resilience, a floating sanctuary of care. As it cut through the dark expanse of space, its destination, Proxima Centauri, was still a mere dot in the distance. Captain Eliza Chen, with her silver-streaked hair tied neatly into a bun, stood on the bridge, eyes trained on the display before her. Her posture was erect, calm, and authoritative, yet there was an undercurrent of quiet determination in her every movement. She was a woman of action, not words, and her responsibility today was grave, to lead the Nightingale safely to its mission, despite the turbulent backdrop of a war between the Arcturians and the Centauri colonists. "How long until we reach the colony?" she asked, her voice carrying the natural authority that commanded respect. Her tone was steady, cutting through the murmur of preparations on the bridge. 20 minutes to the safe zone, Captain," replied Navigator Abrahams, his fingers dancing over the glowing control panels with practiced precision. His gaze flickered between the ship's trajectory and the navigational charts displayed in the holographic projections around him. His job was to ensure they arrived safely, no small task, considering the tensions surrounding their mission. The journey to Proxima Centauri had already been challenging, but there was no time to waste. They were here to heal, not to fight. Captain Chen nodded curtly, her eyes briefly scanning the crew members at their stations. "Good. Make sure our identity signals are broadcasting at full strength. Both sides need to know we're a hospital ship. The last thing we need is a misunderstanding." Her words were clear, this mission was about neutrality. Earth's involvement in the ongoing war had been carefully crafted to avoid conflict. They had come only to help, with no weapons and no interest in taking sides. Humanity had long prided itself on its peaceful endeavors in space, choosing the path of compassion over conquest. But the road ahead, she knew, was fraught with dangers. In the medical bay, Dr. Maya Harrison was overseeing the final preparations for the medical staff. She was surrounded by trays of equipment, stacks of medical supplies, and data screens, all humming with activity as her team organized resources for the impending mission. Dr. Harrison had dedicated her life to saving others, and despite the tension she could feel in the air, her focus remained unshakable. "Are we ready for burn victims?" she asked one of her assistants, her voice calm but urgent. The reports from the front line indicated widespread fires in the colony. Victims were expected. "Yes, doctor," the assistant replied, her voice steady, though a flicker of concern lingered in her eyes. "We have enough burn treatments for at least 500 patients. The other stations are ready, too." Dr. Harrison glanced at the assistant and nodded, her heart heavy with the knowledge that their ship, though equipped with the best of technology, could not shield them from the inevitable chaos that awaited. Their role was clear, to heal those caught in the flames of war, no matter their allegiance. Meanwhile, throughout the ship, the preparations continued. The corridors were a constant buzz of activity as medical officers, nurses, and support staff coordinated their efforts to ensure the Nightingale was prepared for whatever lay ahead. Every single person aboard knew the stakes, and there was no room for error. But as the ship drew closer to the war zone, an unsettling tension gripped the crew. The Nightingale was equipped for peace, but space was filled with unknowns. No one could predict what might happen in the volatile environment of intergalactic warfare. The ship had no weapons, no defensive shields. It was, in essence, a sitting duck if it encountered hostility, and the crew knew it. But their mission was not about fighting, it was about saving lives, even if it meant risking their own. As the distance between them and Proxima Centauri continued to shrink, Captain Chen stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the view beyond the bridge. The vast emptiness of space was punctuated by the distant glow of stars and the sickle-shaped moon of Proxima Centauri, hanging like a silent sentinel in the dark. "Captain," the voice of Communications Officer Park broke the quiet of the bridge, her tone tight with concern. "I'm seeing 3 ships coming from behind the moon. They're not responding to our calls." Chen's brow furrowed, and she swiftly turned her attention to the main screen. 3 ships, dark, ominous, and fast approaching. Their designs were unfamiliar, and the lack of response to their communication signals set her nerves on edge. "Show me," she ordered, her calm demeanor belying the unease that fluttered in her chest. The main screen flickered and then displayed the approaching vessels. They were unlike anything the crew had ever seen, as sleek, angular ships that seemed to absorb the light around them, casting long shadows across the dark expanse. Captain Chen's fingers tightened around the armrests of her chair as the realization dawned. These ships were not here for medical aid. They had been tracking them. And now, they were getting closer, far too close. The crew's sense of purpose, which had been resolute moments before, began to shift toward uncertainty. What kind of force was targeting a hospital ship? "We must make sure they know we're here to heal, not to fight," Captain Chen said, her voice unwavering but full of caution. "Increase the broadcast strength. Make our peaceful intent clear." But as the ships drew nearer, the faintest hint of a threat lingered in the air. Space was vast, but even here, danger could be lurking at the edges of the stars. The cold vastness of space was broken only by the occasional flicker of distant stars. As the UNHS Nightingale cruised steadily toward Proxima Centauri, its engines hummed quietly, a soothing contrast to the stillness that surrounded it. Inside the ship, the crew had grown accustomed to the routine of their mission. Every member was focused on their task, from the medical staff preparing supplies to the technical officers ensuring systems functioned smoothly. But that calm would not last. A sudden, sharp beep echoed through the bridge, followed by the calm, tense voice of Communications Officer Park. "Captain, 3 unidentified ships detected. They're coming from behind the moon." Captain Eliza Chen turned sharply toward the main view screen. The dark expanse of space stretched before them, interrupted only by the faint light of the nearby moon. Slowly, 3 shapes emerged from behind the moon, moving steadily toward the Nightingale. Their silhouettes were sharp, jagged, like something out of a nightmare, unnatural in their sleek design. The vessels had no markings, no signals indicating their allegiance or purpose. "Do they respond to our signals?" Captain Chen asked, her voice calm but with an edge of concern. Park's fingers danced across the control panel, but her response was immediate. "No, Captain. No response on any frequency. They're coming in fast." Chen's eyes narrowed. She knew the Nightingale was vulnerable. It was designed for healing, not for combat. Their mission was to help, not to fight. Continue broadcasting our medical ship status at full power. Make sure they know who we are. The seconds dragged on as the ships closed in, their shapes becoming clearer. They were strange, unlike anything the crew had seen before, with angular edges and a menacing black surface that seemed to absorb the light. A chill spread across the bridge. These weren't the types of ships that simply made an innocent mistake. And then, without warning, the attack began. A sudden burst of energy flashed across the viewscreen, followed by the horrifying sound of a blast hitting the hull of the ship. The entire Nightingale shuddered violently as alarms blared across the bridge. "Direct hit," shouted Tactical Officer Duarez, his face drained of color as he tried to process the damage. "The medical bay, it's been hit." Chen's breath caught in her throat. The medical bays, the heart of the ship, were vulnerable. It was Nightingale's most vital area, housing dozens of patients and its medical staff. It had no defenses, no shields, no weapons. It was just a symbol of peace, and yet, it was under attack. Another explosion rocked the ship, this time deeper, shaking the very foundations of the hospital ship. A wave of panic swept through the bridge as the room was bathed in the red light of warning alarms. Sparks flew from the control panels, and the harsh sound of grinding metal filled the air. Captain Chen fought to steady herself, her grip tightening on the armrest. "We need to move, now." Captain Chen barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Get us out of their range, now." But it was too late. The ship was already taking on water, metaphorically speaking, as the Nightingale groaned under the assault. Another explosion, sharper, more focused, sent a ripple of destruction through the ship. Medical Bay 2, one of the primary treatment areas, was gone, the blast obliterating everything in its path. "Captain, they're targeting the medical base specifically," Duarez said, his voice shaking. "They're aiming for our patients." The horror of the attack was sinking in. The peaceful mission, the calm resolve of the crew, was crumbling in the face of this brutal, unprovoked violence. The attackers didn't just want to damage the ship, they were targeting the Nightingale's most vulnerable, most sacred areas. On the lower decks, Dr. Harrison sprang into action. She had been in the medical bay when the first explosion hit, but the situation quickly spiraled out of control. The ship was failing, systems were shutting down, and panic spread among the staff. "Help them into the escape pods." Dr. Harrison shouted, her voice calm but urgent as she moved through the smoke-filled hallways. Her medical team, scattered but determined, rushed to evacuate the patients. Dr. Harrison's heart raced as she guided her patients, burned, broken, and terrified, toward the escape pods. The ship was buckling under the pressure. More explosions rocked the vessel, the force of each one more brutal than the last. A sickening screech of tearing metal echoed through the walls as the Nightingale began to break apart. The air was thick with smoke, the sounds of fire and destruction filling every inch of space. Captain Chen ordered evasive maneuvers, but the Nightingale's systems were already failing, the ship too damaged to escape the onslaught. The attackers were relentless, no longer hiding their true intentions. Dr. Harrison reached an escape pod, pushing a young patient inside before checking over her shoulder, praying for a safe passage. Just then, a soft, chilling voice crackled over the ship's comm system, a voice that sounded otherworldly, cold, and detached. "Human mercy is weakness. Let this be a lesson." The message froze Dr. Harrison in her tracks. A voice, so cruel, so filled with contempt. What kind of being would target humanity's healing hands, the ones who had come to help, to save lives? Who were these invaders? Another blast tore through the ship's center, and the world around Dr. Harrison dissolved into chaos. The Nightingale broke apart, the sound of the ship's core splitting in two reverberating through the hollow corridors. In an instant, the vast, peaceful Nightingale was no more. The ship, once a symbol of mercy and care, was now a wreckage floating in space, with no hope for rescue. The escape pod shot away into the void, carrying Dr. Harrison, the last surviving member of the crew. She was alone in the endless darkness, her heart heavy with the loss of everyone she had worked with, all the lives she had tried to save. As the pod drifted away, she looked back at the wreckage of the Nightingale. The galaxy would soon learn what happened. And the attackers, the Krell, would learn that humanity's mercy was not a weakness, but a choice. On Earth, the Earth Defense Council sat in tense silence as the holographic feed flickered in front of them. The footage of the Nightingale's final moments was projected across the room, a once peaceful hospital ship, reduced to a fiery wreck drifting through the emptiness of space. The coldness of space was mirrored in the faces of the council members. No one spoke at first, their gazes locked onto the images of devastation that seemed almost surreal. The room felt smaller, more suffocating, as the reality of the assault set in. Admiral William Donovan stood at the front, his eyes narrowed, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the destruction unfold once again. He had seen the footage countless times, yet the fury inside him only deepened with each replay. The Krell had attacked a humanitarian mission, a ship designed to heal, not fight. To strike at something so vulnerable, something so purely meant for good, was unthinkable. One by one, the council members exchanged uneasy glances. Among them was Dr. Maya Harrison, the sole survivor of the attack. The pain and trauma were visible in her eyes, yet her composure remained. She had become the face of Earth's deepest tragedy, a symbol of the merciless cruelty they had just faced. The room's atmosphere seemed to press down on her as she stood to speak, her legs still bandaged, her face marked by burns from the ordeal. Despite her injuries, she stood tall, her voice steady as she began her recount. "They knew we were a hospital ship," Dr. Harrison began, her voice a quiet force that cut through the heavy air. "We broadcasted our intentions on all frequencies. Our markings were clear, unmistakable. Yet they attacked us, specifically targeting our medical bays. Our patients, both Arcturon and Centauri, were caught in the crossfire." Her eyes fluttered, haunted by the memory, but she quickly regained her poise. This was no accident. The Krell, a species known for their violent nature, did this deliberately. They believe that mercy is a weakness. They want to teach us a lesson. The council members listened in grim silence, the tension mounting as the anger in the room grew palpable. Whispers broke out among them, some expressing disbelief, others a simmering rage. A general, his face hard as stone, stood abruptly, slamming his fist on the table. "They've crossed a line," he muttered, voice thick with fury. "They've targeted the vulnerable. This was no military attack. This was an assault on everything we stand for." Admiral Donovan, who had remained motionless until now, finally spoke. His voice was low, controlled, but the weight of his words was undeniable. "Peaceful diplomacy has failed," he stated simply. The Nightingale was a symbol of everything humanity holds dear: healing, mercy, compassion. The Krell have shown us that they see that as a weakness. A misjudgment they will regret. There was a sharp intake of breath as the council members looked at one another, uncertain. They had always prided themselves on Earth's commitment to peace. For centuries, Earth had worked to heal, to build relationships, to offer a hand to those in need. Their forces were small compared to other galactic powers, and their military had long been seen as a guard dog that only barked when absolutely necessary. Admiral Donovan, sensing the hesitation, continued. "I request permission to activate Earth's warfleet." A murmur rippled through the room. The word war was enough to send a chill through the chamber. Earth had never before used its military capabilities for combat. For generations, their fleet had remained hidden, a force meant for deterrence rather than engagement. Earth had always chosen the path of healing over harm. But now, something had shifted. "Permission granted, Admiral," the council president declared after a long pause. The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. "We can no longer stand idly by while the Krell desecrate our mission of peace." As the decision was made, the Earth Defense Council members nodded grimly, knowing that the galaxy would soon learn a lesson about humanity's strength, one born of restraint, but capable of overwhelming power when necessary. The Council's decision set into motion a cascade of events. Deep within Earth's surface, hidden military facilities began to open. Massive doors, sealed for centuries, rumbled as they slowly slid open, revealing warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These ships were not designed for diplomacy or trade. They were born for one purpose: to defend humanity's interests, and if necessary, to ensure that Earth's values would not be trampled by anyone, no matter their size, strength, or cruelty. From the vast underground bunkers in the frozen Antarctic caverns, to the high-tech ocean floors, to the desert caves of the Sahara, Earth's war fleet emerged, powered by technology kept secret from the universe for generations. The ships were sleek and menacing, their designs both beautiful and terrifying in their elegance. Their weapons, more advanced than anything the galaxy had witnessed, had been developed in secrecy, hidden beneath Earth's commitment to peace. The UNHS Retribution, the flagship of Earth's newly activated fleet, was the first to emerge into the void of space. Its dark hull gleamed like obsidian under the distant glow of stars. It was a symbol of Earth's resolve, a declaration that their peaceful nature should never again be mistaken for weakness. As Commander Sophie Arias and her crew made their final preparations, the gravity of the situation settled in. Just days ago, Arias had been teaching at the Space Academy. Now, she found herself commanding the most powerful warship Earth had ever built. The thought weighed heavily on her, but she knew there was no turning back. This was Earth's first step into a new phase of its existence, one where mercy and strength would coexist in a delicate, dangerous balance. The fleet began to mobilize, and the Retribution led the charge, its engines glowing with an intensity that cut through the darkness. The crew stood at the ready, their hands steady, their hearts filled with a singular purpose, to show the galaxy what humanity's strength truly looked like. The Krell would learn quickly that when humanity was pushed to its limits, it could be a force of indomitable power. The UES Retribution sliced through the darkness of space like a predator hunting its prey. It was the flagship of Earth's newly activated war fleet, a behemoth of advanced technology, designed for a singular purpose, to confront those who had dared to challenge humanity's resolve. Its sleek, black hull gleamed with an ominous glow as it led the fleet, its engines humming with a low, throbbing rhythm that reverberated through the ship. The vast emptiness of the void beyond the Retribution only seemed to accentuate the ship's presence. Behind it, 30 other warships followed in perfect formation, each one as deadly as the next. These ships were not like the Nightingale, fragile and vulnerable. They were built for combat, armed with weapons and capabilities far beyond what any other species had witnessed. These were the ships of humanity's last resort, a response to a threat that could no longer be ignored. Admiral William Donovan stood on the command deck of the Retribution, staring out at the holographic projection of the galaxy, his mind focused on the mission ahead. The Krell had made their move, and now Earth would respond, not with blind rage, but with a precision that only came from years of restraint. Donovan's eyes narrowed, the weight of the situation heavy on his shoulders. He was no stranger to war, but this was different. This was a statement. A declaration that humanity's compassion could no longer be mistaken for weakness. "Captain Arias," he said, his voice calm but commanding, "take us into Krell space. We begin with the Epsilon Indy 3 outpost. Show them what happens when humanity is pushed too far." The command was simple, but its implications were profound. The Krell had no idea what was about to hit them. The Retribution and its fleet were invisible to Krell sensors, moving in silence, until they reached the outpost, a small mining colony in a remote system. The outpost was quiet, almost serene in its isolation. From space, it appeared as little more than a collection of crude metal structures, built into the surface of a barren, rocky planet. Krell soldiers manned the perimeter, confident in their isolation, certain that no threat could reach them so far from their core worlds. They were wrong. The Earth fleet dropped out of hyperspace with a suddenness that left no time for the Krell to react. Ships began to emerge from the shadows of space, their black hole cloaking systems keeping them hidden until the very last second. In an instant, the Krell outpost found itself surrounded by ships it could not even detect, let alone defend against. The battle, if it could even be called that, was over before it began. The Earth fleet's advanced technology allowed them to disable the Krell's weapons systems without a single shot being fired in anger. Admiral Donovan had made it clear, their goal was not to annihilate, but to neutralize. The Nightingale had been destroyed, but that didn't mean Earth had to lower itself to the same brutality. The Retribution fired precise electromagnetic pulses that disabled the Krell's communication networks, rendering them helpless. Ships within the Krell fleet dropped out of formation, their engines failing as their systems shut down. The attack was swift, efficient, and terrifying. The Krell could only watch in disbelief as their once proud war machines fell apart in a matter of minutes, their defenses entirely disabled without a single human life lost. "Hold fire," Donovan ordered as the last Krell ship fell silent. "We don't kill without reason. Show them our strength, not our rage." A cold silence spread throughout the Krell outpost as Earth's fleet descended, their ships hovering above the mining facility. The message was unmistakable: Earth had shown no desire to destroy, but had the power to do so at will. In the quiet aftermath, the outpost's once thriving production lines were left dormant, their engines dead, their weapons useless. Admiral Donovan stood, watching the live footage from the outpost. He felt no satisfaction in the operation's success. This was not revenge. This was justice. The Krell had been given a choice: leave, or face the consequences of their actions. And yet, they had never expected Earth to fight back. They had underestimated humanity, assuming the healers would remain passive in the face of aggression. Earth's merciful restraint had been misinterpreted as weakness. Now, the Krell were learning the hard way: humanity's mercy was a choice, not a weakness. As the operation moved forward, Commander Sophie Arias continued to lead the fleet with precision, each strike calculated to avoid unnecessary harm. The Earthships moved in perfect harmony, striking against outposts and military installations, disabling them without loss of life, sparing civilians, and sending a clear message across the galaxy: Earth could defend itself, but it would not resort to mindless destruction. Every target was neutralized with surgical precision, weapons disabled, systems hacked, and power grids shut down. The Krell were left to stare into the face of their own impotence, unable to understand how a species they had thought weak could possess such calculated ferocity. Humanity's strength wasn't in their numbers or their ability to destroy. It lay in their choice to show mercy, but also in their capacity for power when it became necessary. The Krell were beginning to realize their mistake, but it was too late. Admiral Donovan's message had been delivered, and Earth was prepared for whatever came next. The Nightingale had been lost, but the war fleet that followed it would never forget the lesson it had learned. Humanity's mercy might have been tested, but their strength was now clear. It would no longer be underestimated. The Krell Empire's response was swift, as predicted. Furious over their humiliation, their main battle fleet, a massive armada of over 300 warships, surged forward, heading directly toward Earth. The Krell believed their numerical superiority would crush humanity's resolve, but they were gravely mistaken. The darkness of space between them and Earth was thick with tension, a storm about to unfold. The Krell ships glowed menacingly as they neared, their weapons primed, ready for a full-scale confrontation. Yet, as they entered Earth's orbit, they were met not with an overwhelming offensive but with a new display of precision that left them helpless. Earth's warfleet spread out in perfect synchronization, each ship moving with flawless execution. The battle, however, was no longer one of bloodshed or chaos. Earth had no desire to destroy, only to neutralize. The Krell's massive fleet began to disintegrate piece by piece. Not with explosions or fiery destruction, but with surgical efficiency. Earth's ships, stealthy and precise, disabled the Krell's warships with pinpoint electromagnetic pulses, disabling their engines, shutting down their weapons systems, and rendering them powerless without a single shot fired. The Krell could only watch in stunned silence as their mighty ships, once symbols of their dominance, became nothing more than floating, impotent husks. No lives were lost, no blood spilled, but the message was clear: humanity could strike with devastating force, but chose not to. From the bridge of the UES Retribution, Admiral William Donovan watched as the Krell fleet was dismantled. His heart was cold, focused, and unrelenting in its pursuit of justice. He did not take pleasure in the fleet's disintegration, for his mission was not to conquer, but to correct the wrong done to humanity. As the last Krell ship fell silent, floating in space, Admiral Donovan broadcasted a final message to the fleet. His voice was calm but filled with undeniable power. Your crews will live. Your ships can be repaired. You have been defeated without destruction. Remember this when you return home. The message resonated through the void, chilling in its simplicity. The Krell had learned a brutal truth, that Earth had the power to obliterate them, but chose mercy instead. Earth's strength was in its restraint, its ability to act with precision, not out of vengeance, but out of the knowledge that true power lies in choosing not to destroy. The Krell fleet, once so formidable, had been humiliated without the loss of a single human life, and they were left to ponder the consequences of their miscalculation. The Galactic Council convened soon after the events, the atmosphere thick with anticipation and disbelief. The representatives from countless species gathered, watching with bated breath as the trial of the Krell leaders was about to begin. The Krell's aggression had set into motion a series of events that no one could have foreseen. They had misjudged Earth entirely, seeing humanity's compassion as a vulnerability, but they had learned the hard way that mercy was not weakness. In the council chamber, the Krell leaders stood before the assembly, their once proud figures now crumbled in defeat. Their bodies, strong and muscular, were tense as they faced their judgment. These were the same beings who had declared human mercy a weakness, a failure in evolutionary terms. Yet, it was their very belief in dominance that led to their downfall. Dr. Maya Harrison, the lone survivor of the Nightingale attack, took the stand. Her calm demeanor, despite the scars of battle, struck the council with a quiet awe. She spoke not of anger but of truth. They targeted us because we offered mercy, she began, her voice steady, unwavering. they saw our mission as an opportunity to teach us a lesson. But what they didn't understand was that our strength lies in our choice. We choose to heal, to offer help, to show mercy, not because we are weak, but because we believe in the power of life. Her testimony echoed in the chamber, leaving the council members to reflect on the profound difference between the Krell and humanity. The Krell had believed in survival of the fittest, in subjugating others to demonstrate power. But in their defeat, they had shown that their vision of strength was hollow. Humanity's strength, on the other hand, was in its choice to defy the cycle of violence and to stand for something greater than brute force. The trial was long and thorough, but it was clear, the Krell leaders were guilty of violating galactic law by attacking a hospital ship. Their arrogance had led them to mistake Earth's compassion for weakness, and now they would pay the price. The Galactic Council deliberated, and after what felt like an eternity, the verdict was delivered. In a unanimous decision, the Krell leaders were sentenced to life imprisonment on the isolated penal colony of Tartarus. They were to spend their remaining years providing medical care to the sick and injured, serving in the very role they had tried to destroy. It was a fitting punishment, one that forced them to confront their misguided beliefs about mercy and strength. With the trial concluded, Ambassador Chen addressed the council. Standing tall, she projected a sense of calm authority, though her heart was heavy with the weight of the galaxy's newfound understanding of Earth's true nature. Humanity's mission is not just to heal, she said, her voice resonating with quiet strength. It is to show that kindness is not weakness. We will not shrink from our responsibilities. Earth stands as both a healer and a force to be reckoned with. Her words lingered in the air as the council members pondered the implications. The galaxy had seen Earth not just as a peaceful, neutral force, but as a powerful presence capable of great strength when pushed too far. But Earth would choose its battles carefully. Justice would always come before revenge. The UNHS Eliza Chen, Earth's new hospital ship, prepared for its maiden voyage. Its sleek hull gleamed under the lights of Earth's orbital shipyard. It carried with it not only the legacy of the Nightingale but a renewed commitment to healing, even after the horrors they had faced. Admiral Donovan stood alongside Ambassador Chen, watching as the new ship prepared to depart. "The galaxy will never see us the same way again," Donovan said quietly, his gaze fixed on the ship. "Perhaps not," Chen replied, her eyes soft but resolute. "But the Eliza Chen carries with it our strongest message, one of both compassion and resolve." As the UNHS Eliza Chen powered up, leaving behind Earth's orbit, its engines humming in preparation for its first mission, Admiral Donovan and Ambassador Chen stood together, contemplating a future where Earth's true strength had been made known. Mercy, they had shown, but resolve, they had also proven. The galaxy now understood that humanity's kindness was a choice, not a weakness, but when necessary, they could wield power with perfect precision. In the vast emptiness of space, Earth's place was no longer defined by its peaceful mission alone. It had been tested, and it had triumphed. And now, with the Eliza Chen leading the way, humanity was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, always choosing healing over harm, but always ready to defend its principles, no matter the cost. If you've enjoyed this journey into the depths of space, subscribe to HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story for more thrilling tales of human resilience, alien encounters, and the powerful choices that define us. Humanity's story is just beginning, and the galaxy is watching. Join us as we continue to explore what happens when compassion and strength collide. Stay tuned, there's more to come.